Alrighty, well, welcome to Chapter 9. We are plodding right along. We're about a quarter of the way through the book. Yay, and about halfway through the semester, so that should be exciting. So yay. Alright, so Chapter 9. So we're talking about the economy here in Chapter 9. Time period 1800 to 1860, so that's going to bring us up to the Civil War. I think Chapter 10 and 11 are also related to this time period as far as kind of what's going on in the United States between these years. All right. Oh, I thought it was on the thing. There we go. Okay, so these are women weavers from Maine, 4 young women who worked as weavers in a textile mill in Maine. And these are their work clothes. So, oddly enough, kind of crazy, right? And these are going to be shorter dresses than what they previously wore. So these are the tools that they use to do their work. A lot of women worked in the textile industry. We will eventually talk about the Lowell mills, where a lot of women worked as well, young women especially. So, alrighty. So mass production, so manufacturing factories, that kind of stuff. It's going to enable products that were at one point luxury items to be available to all and be consumed by all. During the 1820s and 1830s, you have merchants in Lynn, Massachusetts, shoe industry, introduced an outwork system with a division of labor, so you could take the work home with you, basically. Some work was performed by semi-skilled laborers and the rest by women working in their homes. Workers' wages declined as more jobs were now available. So the more people you have doing the job, obviously, the less you're going to get paid, especially if it is not skilled work. This is going to increase production, and it will also lower costs to the consumers, which again will allow more people to own the items. The factory was built for production that was not suitable for the outwork system. So there's a lot of things you could not obviously do sitting on your couch at home. Let's see. They concentrated their production in one location or building. And during this time period, most of them are going to be near water because we don't have electricity yet powering anything. Cincinnati merchants built slaughterhouses that divided labor among workers efficiently and increased the output. So you do have a lot of division of labor being utilized. Let's see. The use of water power started in the 1780s. So today we would think that was energy conservation, but back then that's all they had available. By the 1830s, though, factories are going to use minerals such as coal instead of water. So again, we would still consider that today an alternative fuel. All right. So British feared competition from the United States manufacturers. So when we were colonies, manufacturing wasn't allowed in the colonies because they wanted people to buy the British goods. In the early 1800s, when Jefferson puts an embargo on trade, we kind of have to figure it out. So the British fear of this competition is so severe that they prohibited mechanics from immigrating, basically leaving Great Britain, because they thought that they would give away the secrets of the British industry. So in 1789, which is very soon after our country begins, you have an immigrant mechanic. His name is Samuel Slater. He builds a mill in Rhode Island. And so what he does is basically steals the plans and gets on a boat without anybody knowing. And he's going to be credited with starting the Industrial Revolution. So our technology, the information to create the technology comes from Great Britain at that time period. So I always find that to be interesting. Great Britain has the advantage of inexpensive shipping, low interest rates, and cheap labor from a large population. Americans got help from tariff bills aimed at driving up the cost of imports. So once we start manufacturing our own goods, we will start with tariffs on imports to cause those goods to cost more, to encourage people to buy American-made. We improved upon British technology and recruited young women from farm families as laborers. You have cities like Lowell, Massachusetts. They had boarding houses for the girls with cultural events, moral instruction, and strict rules. You can actually still go up to Lowell, Massachusetts and visit the Lowell Mills and kind of see what it was like to be a Lowell Mill girl. This is known as the Waltham-Lowell system. They have decent living conditions and independence compared to farm life. I'm just going to let that go. All right. Compared to farm life, they have independence, but there's still a lot of strict rules. They just don't have mommy and daddy there with them. So these are going to be young women, 17, 18 years old, who are not married yet, who come into Lowell to work and earn money for the family. And they live there, and so this is going to be something that's a little bit more allowed. Let's see. Factories could undersell British competitors, obviously, with lower wages and not having to transport the goods as far. Let's see. This is our number of spindles in operation. So these are our textile mills, basically, in 1840. So you can see a large concentration of them up in Massachusetts, the big purple dots right there. All right. Sorry, bells. All right, by the 1820s, American mechanics are developing innovative factory technology. They are not formally educated, but they are skillful. You have the Sellers family in Pennsylvania, which is developing a machine to twist woolen yarn, and then later built a machine to weave wire sieves. They also run machine shops that built fire hoses. Oh my gosh, hoses. They built fire hoses. They did paper making equipment. Eventually, they're going to build locomotives. That family, the Sellers family, and other mechanics founded the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia for instruction in chemistry, math, and mechanical design. And I believe it is still there today. I don't know if it's a full-blown university or anything like that, but I do think it's still there in Philadelphia. But you can see that's a drawing of it up there in the corner. All right, American craftsmen, they pioneered the development of machine tools, basically machines that made parts for other machines. Eli Whitney studied at Yale, and he is going to develop the cotton gin from technology he devised from women's hairpins. Later, he's going to build machine tools to produce interchangeable musket parts. So not only is he credited for the cotton gin, he's also credited for interchangeable parts. So interchangeable parts are super important. So think about if you broke, let's say, your car gets damaged in an accident. If we did not have the idea of interchangeable parts, you would have to take it to a craftsman who would repair your car piece by piece individually. It would take a long time and it would cost a lot of money. So even just think about the things that break in your everyday life. Your battery going bad, your cell phone. I know you can replace your screens today. That's an interchangeable part, so something that can fit back on it. You don't have to have one custom designed for your phone. The other thing we credit Eli Whitney with is the cotton gin. And so I will give him credit. This is a fantastic machinery. It is something that helps the cotton get separated easier. But unfortunately, it has these negative consequences. And what that is the growth of slavery. So because cotton growers or cotton plantations could separate more cotton, then they want to grow more cotton, which means they need more hands out in the field picking the cotton. So even though they have machinery that separates the cotton from the seeds, you still have to have people out there picking the cotton to be brought to the machine. All right. Other inventions during this time period, you have lathes and planers and boring machines. Those are all things for building. They're going to help increase the output beyond the British system. All right, so now that we have workers in factories, and you can see these pictures are a lot more current than the time period we're talking about, but we didn't have photographs in the 1830s, so this is what we get. Outwork in factory systems begin to replace craft workers. Workers are going to receive a wage and direction from an employer. Working class men disliked referring to their employer as master. obviously because that is what is utilized by slave owners, as what they're called. They're the masters of their slaves. Somebody wants to call the manager or the owner master, so they will use the Dutch word boss. So that's where the word boss comes from. Traditional crafts that required specialized skills, such as carpenters and stonecutters and masons and cabinet makers, provided a sense of identity that helped men to organize in unions that could then bargain with employers. So this is kind of the early labor movement. So from the time that labor unions and groups of people formed together to work together, you have the same basic things that labor unions are looking for. And it's the same thing they're looking for then as they did in the early 1900s and as they do today. So the main purpose behind a labor union is better working hours, better conditions, and better pay. Those are the three main things you need to remember about labor unions: better working hours, better conditions, or safer conditions, and better pay. Let's see. Some artisans are going to leave urban areas to set up shops in the country. That way they can continue their work without having to work in a factory. Both Britain and the United States viewed unionization as illegal, and it will go back and forth in our history between is it legal, is it illegal. Texas is a right to work state, so we don't really have unions, but there are states that do have unions. During the 1830s, shoemakers in Lynn, Massachusetts, who were not allowed to organize, formed a mutual benefit society. Others followed, bringing workers together on common ground. 1834, National Trade Union formed as the first regional union of different trades. And so this is going to be one of the many court cases you'll need to know more about. Commonwealth versus Hunt in 1842. So this is a Supreme Court decision. It ruled that unions were not illegal and workers could unionize and strike to enforce a closed shop agreement. Union leaders condemned employers and advocated a labor theory of value. Under this theory, the price of goods should reflect the cost of the labor required to make them, and the income from their sales should go primarily to the producers. 1836, union activists organized nearly 50 strikes for higher wages. In the U.S., women workers striking in New Hampshire do win some relief. Increasingly young New England women refused to enter the mills and were replaced by poor immigrants. So you do have, that's always something that is a problem, and that's another way that immigrants will get a bad rap, is because you do have people organizing and striking, and then you have owners bringing in immigrants who will work for less and not join a union, basically. So that's going to cause some issues. All right, so that gets us through the first section in Chapter 9. And the next one we will talk about, I think, the market transformation. I think that's what it is that we will be talking about. So anyway, I hope you have a good morning, evening, or afternoon, and I will talk or see you soon.